This little demo is going to show a way to create a one row buttonhole, and I'm going to be showing this buttonhole over 4 stitches. I will explain also how to adjust this if you want to work the buttonhole only over 3 stitches. So the first thing that I'm going to do, which is going to help me to remember where to place the buttonhole, I'm ready to work this row right here that begins and ends with knit 2. I'm going to be working my buttonhole immediately before the 2 knit stitches, so it will follow these 2 knit stitches and these 2 purl stitches, and then I'm going to leave a space, and then I'm going to do another one. So for me, this is the most straightforward way to do it. I like to put a stitch marker before the first stitch I want to work, and that way I can place these ahead of time. I know this is only a small sample, but if I place these ahead of time, I understand how many stitches are in between each buttonhole, and I find this easier to annotate rather than to say, for example, work the buttonhole and then work X number of stitches, because I get myself confused. So I do this to set up the first thing. I should mention also that I'm placing the buttons halfway through the finished button band trim, and so I want to make sure that I'm counting how many rows. In this particular example, I've worked 10 rows, and I'm inserting the buttonholes on row 11. Because I've put them in at row 10, that means my entire band will be 20 rows wide. So you just want to divide by half, and that's where you want to put in your buttonholes. So now I'm going to read along with my own directions as I work on this. Remember, those markers are telling me where to begin my buttonholes. So I'm going to work in pattern to the marker. And now I'm going to remove the marker. I'm going to slip 1 stitch with yarn in front, and then I'm going to place my yarn in back of the work. I'm going to slip with yarn in back and pass the slip stitch over, and I'm going to do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I wanted a 3-stitch buttonhole, I would do that only 3 times. So that sets up the number of stitches that are bound off for my buttonhole. Now I'm going to place the last stitch back on my left needle. So you can see now I have that opening, which will be created for my buttonhole. Turn work to the wrong side, or I suppose if you were placing your buttonhole on the wrong side of the work, it's turned to the opposite side, right? I'm going to use the cable cast on method. You can see my tail's coming right here, and I'm going to cast on 5 stitches, or 1 more than however many I've just bound off. So if I had only worked a 3-stitch buttonhole, I would be doing a cable cast on of 4. I hope that makes sense. You're doing a cable cast on of 1 more than you have bound off. I do have a separate little video showing a cable cast on. This is how I do it. There's different ways to do it. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they're all kind of just hanging out. I'm going to turn it back to the right side of the work where I was working. Okay. So I'm going to slip a stitch from the left to the right, and then I'm going to take that last cable cast on stitch and pass it over. So that kind of tightens up my edge of my buttonhole, and that's it. And now I keep going and I work until I get to the next marker, and I do the same thing. And so let's see what we do. We remove the marker. So now I'm doing the same thing again. Slip one with yarn in front, move my yarn to the back. Slip one with yarn in back and pass one over. 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then move that stitch to the left needle. Turn and cable cast on 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn back to the right side. Take the last stitch on the left needle and move it to the right needle and pass 1 stitch over. And I continue working until I get to the end of my row, and I'll show you how these look. Okay, so I have my 2 little buttonholes right here, and I will continue. I'm going to be on a wrong side row, and I will work in pattern as established, finishing until I get to the end of my ribbing. Here's my finished piece. I went ahead and I continued to do 10 rows on this side, and so here are my buttonholes. This is the right side of the work. This is the wrong side of the work, and I think it looks pretty nice. If you are working a different ribbing pattern, if you want your buttons at a different distance, whatever you like to do, go for it. The same kind of strategy applies. Remember, we're going to cast off using that, passing the slip stitch over. You cast off however many stitches you want, and then when you go to cable cast on, it's +1. So this example here are 4 stitch buttonholes. The same would apply for a 3 stitch buttonhole, casting off 3 and then cable casting on 4, or whatever number you need. Thanks.